Barrit, welcome to our alumni conversation where over the next little while we're going to talk about what it is you're doing now, a year after you left KAUST with your PhD in materials science. We're talking to you today from Morocco, aren't we? We're in Morocco.
Yes, thank you, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm very happy to join you. Well, yes, I am from Morocco, precisely in a city called Benguerir. It is a few kilometers further than Marrakesh, so I am now in the central of Morocco.
You graduated from KAUST with a PhD. Tell us about your studies. What did you study here? What does materials science mean? What's your area of work?
So my PhD was on material science. More precisely, I was working on solar cells, perovskite solar cells. So my expertise or my research interest was basically studying the formation of perovskite solar cells, especially in terms of in situ investigation. So I was studying the ink formation, basically from their solution state all the way to the film state, and then studying the different layers, the different morphology and composition of my perovskite materials to achieve high efficient and good devices, solar cell devices. So that basically was my PhD, and it's not very far from what I'm doing now. So I still continued my passion and my field, and I'm still working on perovskite solar cells in Morocco.
And you've got a very, very fancy and technically complicated job title, don't you? So please, could you tell everybody what it is that you do?
So I'm currently the head of the Perovskite and novel photovoltaic technologies in the Green Energy Park. This is an institute that was built or born under the wings of IRAZEN, which is the Research Institute for Solar Energy and New Energies, and also with the university UM6P, which is the University Mohammed VI Polytechnical, and with funding from the OCP, which is the Office of Phosphate. So basically, this is an institute that focuses on solar energy, mainly, photovoltaics, thermal energy. And basically, this is a new lab. So they just opened a new lab that will be working mainly on research of solar cells, especially perovskite solar cells. And I have been hired to be the head of the group. And this is a great opportunity for me because in addition to what I was doing in KAUST in terms of research, now I'm having a double hat, basically both as a researcher, but also as a manager. So I'm having the opportunity to do my research, but also to build a whole new lab, which is amazing because before I used to be just a user of an already built lab, and now I have the opportunity to have my own lab, to build it. It's gonna be a very unique lab because it's gonna be the first in Morocco to have a complete process from fabrication to characterization of the devices in terms of perovskite. And also I have the opportunity to write my own project, collaborate with my colleagues and team, both to have funding in project calls and to start collaboration between different universities. So for me, it is such an opportunity to continue doing what I like, which is science and research, but also grow personally and professionally to become a manager and to have my own team and my own students to supervise them. And I really like that because it gives me an opportunity to lead my group also towards success.
Wow. How did you end up landing this incredible job? Did you want to return home after studying at KAUST?
Well, honestly, during my graduation time, well, even a few months after, I was not sure. I knew I liked science. I knew I wanted to continue in my field, but should I go to industry? Should I go to academia? What jobs am I able to get? Which interview should I excel? I had no idea. So I applied to several opportunities. Couple of them were industry, more were in research, because it just felt like my CV and my background was very research oriented. It just made sense to me. And yes, at that time in my graduation, I was so sure that I will be living in UAE for some times at least. So that's actually what happened. So after my graduation, I went and moved to UAE to join my family. And I stayed there for a couple of months. At that time, I had a couple of interviews in Europe, in Saudi Arabia, in Morocco, but I was not sure which job is the one. To not waste a lot of time, because many people at that time told me that it takes a 7-month average to find the job. So I did apply for an online course, which was about regulation for sustainable development, the goal number 7. And it was funded by NL Foundation and the Florence School of Regulation. So basically it was about power sector. I just wanted to have a bit more information about energy in terms of industry and to learn a little bit more. I know at that time people were like, you just finish your PhD, go and relax and take some time for yourself. I was so worried that I would just get used to rest and then I will just lose my passion. So I took the class and it was really nice. It was a class that went through from January to May, and it gave me an opportunity to go for a week to South Africa in February. So that was my last nice trip before the whole pandemic situation. So that was really nice. I met more people. I kept in my diversified environment that I'm used to in KAUST. I met more people around the world, and it kind of made the transit from being a graduate student to someone looking for a job a bit easier and a bit less stressful, because I felt like I was doing something. I was still productive. While doing the class, and traveling to South Africa, I was also doing my interviews. And honestly, at some point of my life, I had to position one in UAE and this one in Morocco. And that's the hardest thing to do, is which one is the one. And I took some time to think. Obviously, when you have a family, you also have to think about everyone surrounding you and their benefits and their life and everything. But unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, the pandemic happened and I had to take a decision really, really quick. And I was thinking about the whole situation, and in a way, I really wanted to keep working on perovskite solar cells and to continue my knowledge in my field. So I chose to come back to Morocco because the position in UAE was in a different field. So it was a challenge by itself. It could have been nice, but I just wanted to take everything I learned from KAUST, bring it back to Morocco, have the unique opportunity to build a lab that will be unique, be the first of its type. And also I saw that Morocco have been attracting so much attention in terms of perovskite solar cells. So I told myself, like, this is the opportunity, this is the job for me to bring something new to my country and to use everything I learned and bring it here. And the story for me to come from UAE back to Morocco was such a mess, because I accepted this job. I was supposed to move by the end of the month. And then I had my flight. I started organizing my house and like selling some stuff for the big move. Well, the second big move, because I have already moved from Saudi Arabia. And then one day we were having dinner and we just realized that in 2 days, the border are going to close. And that was a mess because that night, just during dinner, we packed whatever we could pack. We changed the flight in the taxi and we completely run to Morocco. And we were very lucky because that flight was the last flight.
Having signed up for the job and that you would be returning to Morocco, that building this lab was part of the deal?
Yes, actually, that was the plus for me. It made it easier for me to choose the job because it's such an opportunity that you wouldn't have every time. Many of the universities are already established. Many of the labs are already established and running. So being in the right time, the right place, the right field, the right expertise in a lab that is still opening is just like the perfection of coincidence. And then you just arrive there in the perfect time to actually build a lab from scratch. I think that challenged me, you know, that brought that fierce part of myself that this is something I have never done. And I want to do it.
And if I may try and sort of talk about your experience at KAUST with your experience now, you arrived at KAUST to start your PhD around 2013. Was it that early?
Yes, it was in 2013. It was not as smooth as I thought it would be. So I started in a different group. At that time, well, my background is sustainable energy and management. So a bit of engineering, a bit of management, not a lot of science, zero material science. My first experience as a material scientist was during my master thesis, which was just a couple of weeks or month. So, but it was enough for me to realize that this is what I want to do. So when I came to KAUST, I was a very naive material scientist. I have almost zero experience. And for me, at that time, working on solar energy was that's it, that solar energy is everything I knew. Well, little I know that solar energy is such a big and vague two words to use for science. Well, when I came to KAUST, I didn't know exactly what I really wanted to do as a material scientist. So I started in another group for a year and a half. And through that year, I kind of grow in terms, well, definitely professionally and personally. And it made me find myself as a scientist and learn exactly what I want to do and have my clear path drawn for me. So after 1 year and a half, I just realized that the group where I am is not the one. So I went on the quest to find the right group, to find the right field and the right science for me. And that's when I made the move. Well, I think it was very courageous because at that time, obviously you have all this question about yourself. Is it the right place for me? Am I the right student? Am I doing well? Like what's going on? It took me a lot of courage to decide that this group is not for me and I have to find another one. And I did. I found the other group and that was the one. It just went perfectly, and that's where I started working on Perovskite solar cells, and everything started to be more clear from there.
So, I mean, where do you start now in building a lab? Are there people back here at KAUST who you met along your academic journey who you can say, hey, could you please give me a hand? Or do your global networks as a result of being here at KAUST for some time enable you to ask others you've met, or is there a resource pool in Morocco and within the Green Energy Park who you'll be able to work with?
It goes in all directions that you mentioned. Definitely having the experience of seeing labs being built in KAUST from my supervisor was definitely very important. My network in KAUST, I have very close relation with all my colleagues. So you don't really pay attention to the little details of which instrument you are using or what are the parameters. They are just made there for you, for your own comfort, and you just use them. So when I went here and I was trying to get the equipment, I was thinking, yes, but what was the parameter? What was the size for this? But what's the temperature for that? I never thought about all of these things. So I went back to the colleagues that build our lab, and I went really further back to them, like asking them, how did you decide on this? How did you design this? They were all very helpful. Every single person supports that are surrounding me, both from KAUST, from international network, from Morocco, helped me a lot get a big picture of a lab.
How has it been starting your career during the year of COVID?
Yeah, well, it was a bit tough because I was supposed to start my job in April, but as a fugitive, I came a few days before they closed the border, and surprisingly enough, few days before the total lockdown. So the moment I moved, I just found myself at home, stuck for 3 months. And I was supposed to start my job, but I was instead in my parents' home, basically doing everything except working. Well, I had the online class, so that's kind of like, I'm still there. I still keep my mind busy, so that was good. But I couldn't start the job really until the lockdown was lifted. So that was by June. So I kind of missed the 2 first months of introduction, of like seeing the lab, seeing what's already there, what can I bring. So those 2 months were kind of like, I'm officially in the job, but not really there yet. But other than that, it was fine. I mean, except the shaky start, everything after that went smooth and fine.
And congratulations on your success. Well, class of 2019 are rocking it, I tell you, and you're leading the way. So congratulations on the year, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you for having me. It was amazing. Thank you.